There is a storm unfolding quietly in the corridors of global power. Not a war of soldiers and missiles, but of politics, tariffs, and trade routes. In the headlines, it's described as an economic measure. In reality, it may be the early chapters of a new kind of Cold War. Today, on the bigger picture, we dive deep into American tariff war to uncover not just decisions made in Washington and Beijing, but also the hidden motives, the ripple effects, and the quiet danger looming over India. So settle in, this is not a story of one nation versus another. It is the story of how fragile and political our global economy has become, and how when elephants fight, the grass often gets trampled. In today's deeply connected world, one decision in Washington can create ripples across ports in Shanghai, markets in Mumbai, and factories in Vietnam. Recently, the United States, under the leadership of President Donald Trump, has reignited the flames of tariff war, particularly targeting China. But the consequences that touch many nations, including India, these are not just numbers on paper. They are policies that reshape livelihoods, businesses, and long-standing trade partnerships. The American tariff war isn't just about correcting trade imbalances or boosting domestic industries. This and all is fluff. It is about power, influence, and redefining how global trade should function. While many were hoping for stability post-pandemic, this move by US has introduced a fresh wave of uncertainty. And as history often teaches us, economic wars, much like military ones, rarely have clear winners. This episode will walk you through the heart of global shift, from the resurgence of tariffs to ideologies behind them, the global impact they are causing, and how India might just be the next player forced into difficult position. This is not just America versus China. This is about future of global trade itself. The trade war between United States and China first made headlines in 2018. Back then, Trump administration imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, accusing China of intellectual property theft, unfair subsidies, and manipulating rules of global trade. China hit back with its own set of tariffs that time. Over the years, these two economic giants went back and forth with talks, breakdowns, and occasionally truces. Fast forward to 2025, with Trump returning back to center stage politically, the tariff battle has resumed with even more aggression. Now, tariffs reaching up to 125% on Chinese electric vehicles, and it can reach up to 145% also on solar panels and green tech components can be expected. The justification: protecting American jobs and industries, but the implications go far beyond that. This is not just economic policy, it is also political theater. The timing, the target, and the rhetoric around these tariffs all align with broader narrative of American strength and independence. But for many countries who trade with both the US and China, especially those in the global south, this renewed conflict feels more like a storm they are forced to sail through without a map. To understand the deeper layers of this tariff war, we need to look beyond trade and into political ideology behind it. Trump's economic nationalism isn't just a strategy, it's a worldview. Under the America's First doctrine, the country is encouraged to look inward, support domestic manufacturing, and reduce dependence on foreign nations, especially advisories. And the right-wing populism, we have already made a video on rise of right-wing parties all over the world and the reasons behind it. That explains you right-wing populism. Right-wing populism, which Trump represents, often relies on creating external threats to unite domestic audience. China, with its rapid economic growth and global influence, fits perfectly into this narrative. By portraying China as a threat to American jobs and values, the tariffs became more than policy. They become symbols of resistance. Some analysts argue that this isn't just about economics or ideology, but about laying the groundwork for a new kind of Cold War. Not one of the nuclear arms, but of microchips, batteries, and digital infrastructure. And in this ideological battlefield, countries like India may be forced to choose sides or risk getting caught in the crossfire. trade doesn't operate in vacuum. When US targets China, the rest of the world feels the aftershocks. Supply chains, which stretch across dozens of countries, are already under pressure. American tariffs make Chinese goods more expensive, and that cost is passed down the line to businesses, customers, and even governments. Countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Mexico were hoping to benefit from the shift away from China, but the new tariffs targeting multiple sectors, even they are starting to feel the pinch. Logistic costs are rising, manufacturing are facing delays. The very structure of globalization is being challenged. This movement could mark the decline of global trade system we have known for decades, one built on efficiency and interdependence. In its place, regional trade blocs and politically aligned economies may rise. For businesses and workers everywhere, this means adapting to a new normal that is less predictable and far more politicized. India, with its rising economic ambitions and growing global footprint, finds itself in a delicate position. On one hand, it is seen as a visible alternative to China for manufacturing. On the other hand, it's increasingly being dragged into trade game. It did not start but cannot ignore. Recent moves by USA to impose a 10% tariff on Indian exports like gems, textiles and medical devices, and that will be increased to 25 to 35%. According to the Moody's Analytics, India's projected GDP growth for 2025 have been revised down, now standing at 6.1%. This isn't catastrophic, it is just a warning bell. If India becomes a pawn in this new Cold War, the consequences could be much greater. India must now walk a tight rope. Strengthening ties with the US is important, but so maintaining independence in trade and foreign policy. Over-reliance on any partner could expose vulnerabilities, especially in a world where alliances are shifting and economic nationalism is on the rise. Let's look some data. Before the tariff war reignited, US tariffs averaged below 3%. Today, they have spiked to nearly 20% across key sectors, a level not seen since 1940s. China has retaliated in kind, imposing tariffs as high as 125% on American goods. This is not trade dispute anymore. It is an economic battlefront. These numbers have real consequences. Companies are shifting production lines. Small businesses are cutting jobs. If you see Apple, it came from China to India. Consumers are paying more for everyday items. Economists warn that such prolonged trade conflicts could shave off entire percentage points from global GDP growth. For India, the challenge lies in staying competitive without taking sides. Investment must be balanced, trade strategies must be diversified, and long-term policies must be driven not by short-term politics but by sustainable growth objectives. The American tariff war isn't just about China. It's a wake-up call for every nation integrated into global economy. Beneath the numbers and headlines lies the fundamental question: can the world return to free and fair trade, or are we entering a new age of economic confrontation? Trump's strategy may have short-term supporters, especially among these who feel left behind by globalization. Long-term costs, economic, diplomatic, and social, are harder to ignore. For countries like India, this is a critical juncture. Decisions made now will shape our future role in the world economy. In this volatile landscape, India must act with caution, strategy, and vision. We must protect our interests, build resilient supply chains, and never forget that we too could become the next target. This is not the end of story. The American tariff war will continue to evolve, and with it, the global map of trade, power, and politics. For viewers in India and across the world, the message is clear. Stay informed, stay flexible, and stay prepared. Because in the bigger picture, what may seem like a distant trade policy today could shape our economy, our job, and our future tomorrow.
का काला कानून मोदी सरकार लाई है। उसके खिलाफ आज हमने पीसफुल प्रोटेस्ट किया है।
इसी महीने की शुरुआत में संसद ने वक्फ संशोधन कानून बनाया।
Regarding the same, security forces have been deployed in Jangipur of Mushirabad.
In April 2025, a new law passed quietly in Parliament. It promised efficiency, digitization, and social reform. But for many, it also stirred up deep fears that history might be erased and the trust once broken may not be rebuilt. This is the story of Waqf Bill 2025. But more than that, it's the story of how a nation balances reform with reverence and modern law with centuries old trust. Today, in episode 19 of The Bigger Picture, let's know more about Waqf Act 2025.